Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dutzy Gaming and a new video on the channel showing how everyone can make hundreds of chaos in double quick time at League Start. Now, everyone can do this. There's nothing super groundbreaking in this guide, so if you're an experienced and seasoned League Starter, this might not be for you. If, however, you're a player who really struggles to get currency and gear upgrades early, this well could be the video that you've been waiting for. Now, before we get into the nitty gritty of the guide, I want to go over a couple of things. Firstly, it does not matter what build you're playing, this is viable for everyone. It works better on a character with decent movement speed and AoE damage, but every character can do it. A prime example of a perfect League starter for this would be my Reign of Arrows guy from last league, because it worked perfectly for this strat because it utilized Onslaught, extra Onslaught effect, phasing, and spell suppression. So the content that this guide is going to cover is how to make currency when you're still in the campaign, knowing what currency to spend on gear, what your aims are for maps, examples of Atlas trees with map progression versus currency making, and then finally, what are the pros and cons of a slow Atlas progression. So the first thing to get your currency rolling is Heist. Now, don't worry, this is not an endless Heist strategy and it is not complicated to do. The idea is to spend a maximum really of 1 hour in Heist to get enough currency to get a good weapon, a 5-link, and some life and res gear. How much you earn in the first phase does depend on how quickly you can get in and out of the contracts, but everyone can make currency doing this. So how does this work? Well, it doesn't really get going until Act 6 when you start seeing caches that you can open and you'll get rogue markers and contracts dropped from mobs. You don't need to do anything until you hit level 58. You're then going to go to the Rogue Harbour and you may as well complete the intro quest while you're there. You want to buy all of the lockpicking and demolition contracts from Meccano at level 58. And that's all we're doing at this stage. You want to repeat this process every time you level up. So when you hit 59, go back to the Rogue Harbour, buy all the lockpicking and demolition contracts again. If you run out of chance orbs, which is going to be the main currency that you use to buy these contracts, complete some of the lockpicking contracts that you picked up. This is really the main reason that we're picking these up. Now keep repeating this until you hit Act 10 and kill Valenta for your last optional skill point. This is the point where I would then go and start heisting. So go and complete your third lab if you can, and then continue to the Rogue Harbour. Ideally, you want to be sort of mid-60s at this point. So we'll go through an explanation and walkthrough of how you're completing these contracts. So the first thing to note is you don't have to fully complete every heist. All that loot in the end chest gives you is rogue markers. If you've picked up a lot of rogue markers in the campaign, and you're only planning to do 15 to 20 heists, you may not need to complete them. The only reason you need to complete the heist is if you're going to need the rogue markers to complete the contract. If you don't need to complete them for rogue markers, great, but if you do, pick and choose which ones you want to complete. Once you go into a contract, you will see how far away the end chest is. If it's a long, long way away and likely to have lots of locked doors in between, ignore it. If it's a really short contract, they're the ones that I would look to complete and get the rogue markers. When you're completing these, you want to leave the first few chests close to the door that you come across, because you can loot these on the way back, even if it means setting off the alarm, because you still have time to get out of the contract. For demolition, you want to target the question mark chests, and then as many small chests as you can. Make sure that you can always collect all of the question mark chests, because this is where a lot of your currency comes from. For lockpicking, you want to complete all of the jewelry rooms and the currency rooms before again looting as many small chests as you can. Now, 95% of your currency is going to come from demolition contracts and chaos recipe. For those that are unsure what the chaos recipe is, any items that you find on the ground that are between level 60 and 74 can be sold to a vendor for 2 chaos orbs if you have a full set. So it'd be either 2 one-handed weapons or a 2-handed weapon, and then helmet, chest, gloves, boots, and your 4 jewelry items, which would be belt, 2 rings, and an amulet. The reason Heist is so good for the chaos recipe is because you get jewelry chests in Heist. You're going to get a lot of rings, amulets, and belts. And these are the things that if you're just doing chaos recipe in maps or in campaign zones that slow you down. You'll end up with stash tabs full of body armors, weapons, boots, and gloves, and you might not have any amulets or rings. You essentially rinse and repeat this until you've got your desired amount of currency. So if you only want to get a 5-link and some decent gear and a weapon, you're not going to be in Heist very long whatsoever. You can then kit your character out so that it's ready for maps, go and kill Kitava, and you get a massive head start in terms of feeling really, really viable in your maps. So there are 2 things that everyone wants to do, regardless of what your Atlas plans are or what you want to do in maps. There's 2 things that you should do immediately when you get into maps from the campaign. So the first thing you're going to do is Kirat's going to have a mission for you. He's going to offer you a tier 1 map. There's 4 different tier 1 maps. You can pick what map you want to take. Take one that you don't already have. You likely probably picked up 3 to 4 maps along your way in the campaign. If you already have 2 Strand, don't take Strand as your option. Take a map that you don't have in your inventory because it's one more for your Atlas completion. Once you've completed that map, then the map device will now be on your hideout. Go over to Kirat again and go to purchase items. He's going to have an inventory of maps. You should have lots and lots of currency from doing your heisting. So buy all the maps that you either don't have in your inventory or don't have completion for. The reason it's important to do this early on is there is a stage within the first few maps where his inventory resets. So this essentially gives you a free reset of his maps. I think it's 10 maps. Once you completed 10 maps, regardless of whether you've done another Kirat mission, his inventory will reset. And then lastly, regarding Kirat, once you start getting some Atlas missions, every time you select one, his inventory is going to reset. So if we look at his inventory now, you can see the selection of maps that are in there. If I then go and open up a map, it's going to reset that inventory once the portals spawn. So now it's got a different selection of maps that I could buy. So it's important that you don't use a Kirat mission until you've bought all of the maps from his window that you want to buy. Then you can complete a mission. It resets the inventory. It's basically the #1 way you can get your map completion done much, much quicker. So now we're going to look at how much you should spend on gear. And this is actually really, really important early on. So what are your early goals for League Start? Do you want to rush red maps? Is your goal to get to T14 maps as quickly as possible? Or are you happy making currency in white maps or mid-tier yellow maps or early tier red maps? Whatever your goals are will really then influence the gear that you need to complete those goals. So work out what the minimum gear required is to meet your early goals. And we're going to explain why that's really important now. Do you need a 6-link? This is the first question you want to be answering. If you don't need a 6-link to complete your goals, don't buy one. These just get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper as the league goes on. On day 1, an uncorrupted 6-link might cost you 120 chaos. On day 3, it might be 50 chaos. If you spent 120 chaos of your money on that 6-link and you didn't need it, you've essentially wasted 70 chaos. So yes, it will make maps more comfortable, but if you don't need it to meet those goals, why not wait 2 or 3 days down the line when the item is going to be cheaper? Same for a lot of unique items that some people want. Unless it's a tier 1 unique, more and more of those uniques are going to come onto the market and they're going to go down in price. So do you want to go forking out 50 chaos on a unique on day 1, when on day 3 it might be 5 to 10 chaos? The less you spend at this stage, the more you'll make in the long run because of depreciation. You are basically wasting hundreds of chaos if you kit your character out to be red map viable, and you're going to spend 1 day farming yellow maps. You don't need to do that. You may as well farm the yellow maps, get even more currency, and then buy even better gear when you go to red maps. So what we're going to do now is move on to look at an Atlas tree that is guaranteed to make you money and progress your Atlas. It's not fancy, it doesn't include any complicated mechanics, but it works. It's something I've done league after league, and I've always made a lot of currency doing it. So this is what your tree is going to look like, probably early to mid-tier yellow maps when you started filling out some map completion. What we're doing is taking map nodes, Kirat nodes, essences, and shrines. Now, you don't need to take the shrines. I just think early on, if you can give your character a boost, why not? It's always good to have. It's also going to help you when you need to start pushing to red tier maps. These shrines can be a massive bonus. So the way you're going to start is not particularly sexy or exciting, straight down the middle. All you're taking are these nodes here that give you 2% chance for a monster to drop a connected map. From here, we're taking this Kirat wheel here. Kirat missions are really, really overlooked early on by a lot of people, but they are a way you can make your Atlas progression much easier. And later down the line, when you've built up lots of Kirat missions, you can make a lot of profit from these. So these little nodes give you 1% chance for Kirat to give you a mission on map completion. So you've got 4 of these, so it's 4%. This one on the left gives you 60% increase scouting reports found on your maps. Again, really useful for re-rolling the missions that Kirat offers you, and again can help with either trying to get big ticket maps in his inventory or completing missions yourself. We're then going to go and complete this. It's 3% chance to give you a mission on completion, and it gives you a mission every day, which, to be honest, at League Start doesn't mean a lot because you might be through your League Start in a couple of days. From here, we're just going to go and pick up both of these map nodes here. Again, it's nothing exciting, but at this stage, you're completing like tier 3, T4 maps. You really don't want to be stopping doing league mechanics because you're not going to earn much currency from them. Getting more maps to drop is always handy. At this stage, now we're going to go and pick up essence nodes. So you're going to beeline up here and you're going to go and take amplified energies, which means essences found in your map are a tier higher. After that, it means you can then take your guaranteed essence, and then every time you get an essence in a map, it's going to be pushed up a tier. We're still not going to start farming these maps yet because we don't have all of the nodes we need, but just these alone mean that essences is most of the time worth stopping to do. After this, you're taking the last essence node, which basically doubles shrieking essences. This now on its own allows you to start making a ton of currency. And then just to make our map sustain a bit better, we're going to go down and get shape in the mountains. Now, we're not only getting it to have a chance to get higher tier maps, but a 10% chance on completing your maps to gain a free use of a random map craft is awesome. If you have this on your Atlas tree for the first week or two, by the time you actually come to do some farming strategies, you are going to have a lot of free Atlas uses for nearly every mechanic. And then the last thing I would do from here, if you feel like you're struggling a little bit, just come and fill out these shrine nodes. They're not something I necessarily think you need, and if you don't feel like you would benefit from them or you need them to complete the maps that you're doing, then don't bother. Now, at this point in the game, you should be sort of mid-tier yellow maps. If you want to make a ton of currency, get out all of the white maps that you have in your stash tab. You'll have a load of them that you built up from taking map nodes, and just run them. You don't even need to complete the maps. You don't have to alch them. You run them white. You put them in your map device, you find the essence, you kill it, you portal out of the map. If the boss is close, kill it anyway because it might give you a Kirat mission. This is the way I earn a lot of currency every league. Get a map in, get that essence, get out again. You'll be completing the maps in around 1.5 minutes. So within an hour to an hour and a half, you've got a lovely amount of essences that you can sell. The important thing about making currency early is selling your stuff. Don't let stuff rot in your stash tab. I see so many people complain that they can't make currency early and they've got hundreds of chaos of loot sitting in their stash that sells easily. Essences are how nearly everyone crafts their early game gear. Nearly every type of essence sells for money. You don't really need to upgrade them to deafening. Shrieking should be fine. They will make you a ton of currency. Now you can do this for as long as you like. Just drop back to lower tier maps every time you want to farm essences. Essences should still be fairly comfortable in yellow maps. Once you start pushing to red maps, they get more difficult, but you keep them in your tree because, again, just drop back to lower tier maps if you want to go and farm some currency. So we're now going to move on to phase 2, which would be where you are hitting red maps. We've added in one more league mechanic, we've added in some more map nodes, and we've added in some blockers and stream of consciousness to get more content into our maps. At this stage, we've added in Expedition because it is a very, very good currency maker early on. There are plenty of videos around on how to utilize Expedition, but you essentially use ROG to craft gear for yourself or to sell, Tusion to get some currency, and Danig to boost up either ROG or Tusion. Now this tree here is not the most efficient path in. There's a few wasted nodes. The reason we're doing it like this is because you don't want to have to use 10, 15, 20 orders of unmaking when you're just hitting red maps because that's quite a big expense. There are much better ways to path to get these nodes, but for here, this works fine. So all we've done is we've gone and got that extra expedition nodes here. We're taking the expedition wheel other than this one here. It really doesn't add very much. I'd rather save the point. As mentioned, we're taking stream of consciousness to force more content in, but just be aware you can't use fragments, so don't try sticking scarabs into your map device. And then we're blocking Metamorph, Delirium, Blight, and Ritual. These are not things I'm going to complete in the map, so blocking them just gives me 2% chance for more mechanics to spawn. I would never block road markers because it's just free currency when they turn up. So we're coming down here and we're getting chance for expedition. We're taking this expedition wheel here. And as I said, we're taking this one here. We do not take these expedition ones here because I really don't feel like they do very much. You would only take these nodes if you're really struggling completing expedition. Essentially what they do is they explode the chain slower. So you've got a bit more time to kill packs. And they basically spawn with a little bit of less life. But I think these are wasted nodes. At this stage, you want to be alching your maps. The more quantity and pack size you can get into them, the more you're going to get out of expedition. But alch and go is absolutely fine. You don't really need to do much more than that. With this setup, you're going to be getting expedition in a good majority of your maps, and you've still got the essence monsters that you can kill. With your character, you should still be able to take essence monsters down in late tier yellow, early tier red maps, and these are still really handy to have if you want to drop back and farm some quick currency in lower tier content. But now, as you can see, we're keeping all of the Kerak nodes in, and we're adding even more map nodes so that we can just make sustain a non-issue. You are going to be well over sustaining your maps, so you're not going to have an issue progressing your Atlas. With all the Kerak nodes, you're going to be building up Kerak missions. In general, this is just a really, really good starter tree for getting both currency and progression. Now, as you can see, I'll drop the shrine nodes mainly to free up some points. But as you can see from where we're pathing, it is only 6 more points if you wanted to add your shrine nodes. But for 88 points, you're talking clearing a majority of your red maps to get to that stage. So I thought I'd give some examples of a run I've just done, just to show you I'm not making it up and that it's not luck. You will get this sort of currency every time. You will end up, once you've got a few essences, with hundreds of chaos. So the tab that you're looking at now is 1 hour in Heist. I'm not very good at it. I'm not very efficient. I just went in, I killed way too many enemies. I wasn't particularly quick, but I've come out with 60 raw chaos once I've traded in my chaos recipe, 20 vials, 20 regrets, a smattering of lots of other currencies and essences, and I've also ended up with 2 5 links as well. So this is all currency that you would never make early on in white maps because we were at level 66. It's going to be a struggle going into white maps. We're not going to be particularly quick. What this allows you to do is spend a couple of chaos getting your resistances sorted before you kill Katava. Spend a few more chaos if you haven't had a 5 link drop to get something that you can then run a 5 link skill. And then you're straight into maps and you're going to absolutely blast through white maps. You're going to get all your essence nodes and then you're going to move on to step 2. This is an SSF run that I've done. I've put 2 POBs in the video description. The first one is the POB for me when I went through Heist. And then the second POB is when I started farming essences in sort of lower tier yellow maps. This is all done in an SSF environment, so it's certainly something you can do in trade. This is the way I recommend to everyone if you're not too sure about how to get currency league starting. This is a strategy that I would recommend for everybody. So after buying up Kerak's maps when I left the campaign, it gave me 5 or 6 maps that I could complete for bonus, and then I'll have maps drop as I go along. After 7 maps, as mentioned, his inventory reset so I could buy more maps. So I'm at a stage now where I've only run 15 maps. They've all been able to be different maps, and I've got 15 bonus completion. So because of the tree that we're taking, we've already got 7% chance for Kerak to grant an additional mission on completion, and we're starting to get our maps can drop a tier higher and monsters can drop a connected map. So as you can see, I'm now out of maps in terms of ones I haven't completed, but I have got 14 maps, which these will just be saved to farm essences. However, you can see I've got 3 Kerak missions. So what I can do now is complete 1 Kerak mission. His inventory is going to reset. I'm going to buy all the maps. Once I've run all of them, I have another mission. And because we're taking nodes to grant more missions on completion, I'll get another couple of Kerak missions before I need to use them. This way, I'm going to be able to get nearly all of my white and yellow map completion done really quickly without having to run maps that I don't need for completion to try and get other maps to drop. Now, one thing you might run out of is chance orbs. As you can see here, I don't have any at all. I'm about to do another Kerak mission to reset his inventory. What you can do is use vendor recipes to turn fusings into chance orbs. So I'm able to get 11 chance orbs here and then some more if I wanted to turn my jewelers into fusings. So what I'll do for now is I'll turn all my jewelers into fusings. And then I will turn all my fusings into chance orbs. I've now got 20 chance orbs. That's going to be plenty for a couple of windows. So we'll go back to Kerak. He has offered us a rare map, but this is a very common map that we're going to get at some point. And 47% more monster life and 40% more damage. I don't really want to be dealing with that at the moment. I've already completed Strand, Coral Ruins, Sepulchre, but I haven't done Ivory Temple. So we're going to go and we're going to do Ivory Temple. It's also going to drop a stack of divination cards. Going to set off this mission and then we're going to go and look and his inventory is going to reset. So we're going to see if there's maps that we need to completion. So we need Arachne Tomb. I know I need Shore. I know I need Laboratory. And I know I need Volcano. So there's another 4 maps for me to get going once I've completed this Kerak mission. So after completing the Kerak mission and then the maps that Kerak offered me and whatever maps dropped off of that, I've still not had to complete a duplicate map. The maps are at 23 out of 115. And as you can see, I'm now sitting on 4 Kerak missions. So with these Kerak nodes, you get a 7 or 8% chance for him to offer you a mission on completion anyway. So just having an extra chance gives me basically a 1 in 6 to 1 in 7 chance of him offering me a mission once I complete a map. So I've got 7% here, and then the base is 7 to 8%. So I've got a 15% chance for Kerak to offer me a mission on map completion. So as long as he offers me a decent chunk of maps that I haven't done from his inventory, I should be able to keep recycling those Kirat missions to essentially complete all of my white maps, hopefully without having to duplicate one. Then I only need to do 3 yellow maps and I can get all of the essence nodes along with the map nodes, and that's when you're going to start making some currency. So if we go and visit Kirak, I can do Pier or I can do Residence. I haven't done any of those maps. This Residence is unideed and corrupted, probably don't want to do that one. Fizz Reflect I should be okay with, but it might kill me, so I think we're going to have to do this Pier because this is the safest one to do. And again, it's a stack of divination cards. So we'll activate his mission. We'll just go and check that we've got some chancels. We should have enough. And then we'll go to purchase again. And then you can see his inventory is reset. I can see from looking at that, I've done all of these. And this is what's going to happen. The more maps you complete, the more you're going to have duplication of your maps. I know I've got volcanoes sitting in my stash waiting for me. So we're going to buy Haunted Mansion. And then once we've got 2 more chancels, we can go and buy Promenade. So that is going to be another 2 maps that we haven't completed, along with this one that Kirat's offered us, but then we've still got 3 Kirat missions. So the idea is that we unlock these essence nodes without completing duplicate maps. You may have to do 1 or 2 to try and get some maps to drop, but it avoids the frustration of having to repeat map after map after map just to hope you get one to drop that you haven't done, or you get a Kirat mission on completion. So we've recycled through all the Kirat missions. We've now got all of the nodes that I want to for the first part of this Atlas strategy. I've unlocked the map nodes, the Kirat nodes, and I've taken all of the essence nodes. I've now got 36 out of 115 Atlas completion, with 1 unique map and the first Maven out the way, and then 34 maps, and I still haven't had to run a duplicate map. So in what is essentially 35 maps, 1 Maven encounter, and then 55 minutes heisting, I've got my Atlas set up to go and make a ton of currency. And this is the way I always league start, and if you want a smooth league start where you can actually grind some currency in lower tier maps to get some currency together to upgrade your items, rather than try and force your way through yellow maps and red maps when it just feels horrendous, this is a really good way of doing it. I'll go and just farm these maps for essences, and I'll just keep running any maps that I get dropped for essences. And when I've got enough essences to get a few hundred chaos together, then I'm going to upgrade my gear and then push towards yellow and red maps. And that's when you then start adding your expedition in and really farming some proper currency. But if you just want to make a few hundred chaos early on at league start, this is a great way of doing it. So I'm not going to drag the video out much more. All I'm going to do is I'm going to run all of these white maps. I'll make a note of how many maps I've run, and then I'll show you what essences we've got at the end of that farm. Now, the good thing about going back to white maps is I should be able to fill in all of the white maps that I'm missing. So Crimson Temple, for example, is connected to Strand. So I'll run my Strand. If I don't have one drop, I might get another Strand drop, which then might give me a Crimson Temple. So we've got a good chance from running all of these white maps of filling in all of our white map completion. We're also going to pick up a couple of Kirat missions, which again, we can use to fill out missing maps and use this inventory to buy the ones that we need. Then once all of my white maps are done and probably all of the tier 6s, I'll see what essences and currency I've got, and then I will push my build further. So I've just ran lots and lots of white maps, just putting the map in, getting the essence, getting out. If the boss is nearby, I'm killing them. If not, I'm not worried because we don't need white maps anymore. I haven't completed my white map completion yet, but it doesn't really matter. You're going to get that done at some point through Kirat missions. So if we have a look at where we're at now, you can see now we've got a decent stack of essences that you'll be able to sell. Essences of Dread, because they're used in a lot of bow builds like EA Ballista and Toxic Rain, normally go for about 8 chaos each at league start, and that's been the last few leagues. Loathing for mana reservation efficiency sell for a lot. Nearly every essence that's Shrieking is going to sell for at least a chaos or 2, some much more. So you'd easily be able to liquidate these very, very quickly for a decent amount of chaos. So you add that on to the chaos that you've got, and you can be sitting on, I would think, 150 to 200 chaos at least. And all I've done from my league start character is I've used 1 essence to craft a bow and 1 essence to craft a quiver. And that's it. I don't need any more to do the content that I'm doing. And as I explained, the longer the league goes on, even by a matter of days or hours, standard gear comes down in price, and only the really, really rare stuff will go up in price. So if we have a look where we are in terms of maps, we've not really got any more completion done, 38 out of 115. But what we've got, because we've been using Kirat missions, is we've been buying his inventory up from the alchemies that we've been dropping. We've now got lots and lots of yellow maps you can run for completion. So at this point, you spend a little bit of your chaos to get your character so that it can do what it's done in white maps in yellow maps. So you clear your Atlas for the yellow maps, then you go back and you farm them for essences to get more currency. Then when you've got enough currency to get your red map character ready to go, you do that, and that's when you push on to Expedition and start making even more currency. This method won't suit everyone. If you're someone who's really confident at League Start, and this is probably not the way to do it because it is a little bit slow, but it's something that any build can do, and you will make currency. You'll get yourself a few hundred chaos to get those items that you need to then start pushing your map completion and get into red maps and feel a lot more comfortable than banging your head against a brick wall trying to get through on your League Start gear. That's kind of it for the video. I don't want to go much further than that because it's just going to go on too long. We'll quickly recap the steps. So at level 58 and onwards, you go to the Rogue Harbour and buy demolition and lockpicking contracts. When you get to your last skill point in Act 10 and you get your third lab done, you then go and you start completing all of the heists until you've got a decent amount of currency. If you do it for an hour, you should get 60 to 80 chaos at least. You then go into your maps and you're following the Atlas tree in the video description. Make sure you take the Kirak nodes. These are what's going to make it so that nearly every map that you do is going to be a new map for completion, so that within no time at all, you're going to have your essences unlocked. Then if you want a boost in currency, you just run all the white maps that you've collected, put them in, get the essences, get out again. You're then going to be able to get even more chaos. You should be then looking at a pot of around 100 to 200 chaos. You can then make some further upgrades, do the same in yellow maps, and carry on. Now, if you would like me to carry on and do the expedition part and do the yellow and red Atlas trees, then let me know. But I feel for now, this is a really good tree for someone League Start, and you're going to make a lot of currency regardless of the build, and it's just nice and smooth. There's some plus points as well. I've got to level 83. I've never felt in danger because I'm only doing white maps. All I would say is, if you find that even in white maps, the essence monsters are difficult, spend a little bit of your currency or your essences so that you can take them down, because you are going to make more currency the quicker you kill these essence monsters. And then lastly, we're just going to cover off the pros and cons of whether you rush a League Start or whether you're a bit slower and you gather up your currency. And it really all depends on your experience and the sort of build that you're playing. If you're on a build that on a 5 link can just push the red maps anyway, then you may as well do it. There's no point hanging around in white maps making currency when you could be making currency in red maps. If, however, you're someone who really struggles historically at League Start to get some currency together, I think it's better to go slower. You can earn currency in white and yellow maps really easily. As I say, if you want me to go through the expedition part when we start pushing yellow and red maps, let me know. I'm happy to do that. That's it for this video. Hope it helps people out. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.